Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Like and subscribe to support me. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Sage Seal, boom. Mr. Yu's shadow appeared in the air, stretching out. He put his palms together and shot out a golden seal, pressing it toward Yunxiao. Startled, Yunxiao hurriedly turned his head. The entire underground space was blocked from divine sense, and he didn't even notice that someone was approaching from behind. By the time the other party spoke, the seal had already covered the entire space. There was no way to avoid it. Boundless heaven and earth, 6 paths reincarnation. Yunxiao quickly performed an incantation gesture, leaving afterimages in his wake. His speed was several times faster than usual, and a heaven and earth seal emerged behind him as he launched it at the enemy. The 2 golden incantation seals continued to expand in the air and collided with each other. A violent spiritual pressure spread out, illuminating the entire underground space with a golden light. Besides, the difference in strength was obvious. Yunxiao's heaven and earth seal soon dissipated, and the power of the other's seal came crashing down without weakening at all. Demonic sky armor. He shouted, and black chi emerged around him, condensing into a solid armor that covered his body, blocking the power of the sage seal. His entire body was also struck by the impact and almost fell into the great sacrificial array. He didn't die. Mr. Yu was surprised. His eyes glowed brown, and his face was revealed under the darkness. Yunxiao stared at him coldly and said, "Who are you?" Mr. Yu was also staring at him. The more he looked at him, the more shocked he became. He was only a 3-star martial king, but his eyes were shooting out powerful martial will. He was not afraid of him, a martial emperor. Moreover, even an ordinary martial royal realm expert would not be able to withstand the blow of his seal, and there was not a single wound on his body. "Are you the divine body of 9 Yang?" Mr. Yu said coldly. His killing intent was getting stronger and stronger. It was almost tangible. Yunxiao's heart skipped a beat as well. It seemed that he was not an ordinary person. He asked, "Do you know about the divine body of 9 Yang? State your name." Mr. Yu's face relaxed. He was finally at ease. A man with the 9 Yang body meant that he didn't have to worry too much. However, the killing intent on his body did not decrease in the slightest. He snorted coldly and said, "Why would a dying man know so much?" "I'm learning as long as I live," Yunxiao said with a smile. "Can't you just satisfy my curiosity?" "No. Kill him." Mr. Yu spat out coldly. The killing intent from his body condensed in the air and gradually turned into a terrifying arm covered in scales. The tip of the arm flickered with a dim light as it pointed at Yunxiao. "Ramayana. How many people have you killed to have such a strong killing intent?" Yunxiao cried out in surprise and anger. Mr. Yu's heart skipped a beat as well, and he said coldly, "So you know about Ramayana? It seems that you're not an ordinary person. In order to thank you for bringing me here, I've decided to grant you a quick death. God-killing finger, exterminate." He raised his hand in the air and quickly pointed his index finger forward. The killing god's hand in the air also pointed down, and a terrifying killing intent spread out, suffocating the entire space. It was extremely oppressive and terrifying. The sacrificial array also seemed to have some subtle changes under this murderous aura, and the speed of the loss of yang qi gradually slowed. Yunxiao's pupils constricted slightly as the air around him began to spin under the circulation of his primordial qi. The killing intent that filled the entire space was blown away, forming a vacuum around him. It was as if his body was embedded with pearls and jades, shooting out rays of white light, like the sun shining through the dark clouds. His entire body was transparent. "I'll take the wind and cloud." A palm of wind and cloud condensed above the space that the white light shot open, resisting the killing god's finger. Mr. Yu's pupils suddenly contracted, and his face twisted. He screamed, "You're not the divine body of 9 Yang. "Where's the divine body of 9 Yang?" he roared, his body trembling. "Was it a man or a woman? Hurry up and tell me." Boom. The two forces collided, and the phenomenon released by Yunxiao's divine body began to purify the killing intent one by one. The 24 moonlit bridges had the power of the moon pearl of the Eastern Sea. It could purify all negative energy and weaken the opponent to the greatest extent. However, even with the divine body phenomenon, the great wind cloud palm was still defeated by the killing god's finger and was soon scattered. The huge finger shadow fell down as if it wanted to kill all life.
Ha!
Yunxiao roared and threw out a punch. He was not using any powerful martial arts technique, but the Vajra punch that everyone knew. Boom. A huge murderous aura exploded in front of him, engulfing his entire body. He fell from the sky and fell to the ground far away. The purple-black killing intent condensed and did not dissipate, completely enveloping Yunxiao as if it was constantly devouring and corroding his body. Mr. Yu regained his composure after a moment and looked down coldly. Sure enough, it was not as easy as he had imagined. The purplish-black killing aura quickly emitted white light and purified the killing aura in the surroundings. Yunxiao sat up from the ground, his body shining with a bright light. He raised his head and stared at the man coldly. "Mr. Yu said slowly, your godly body is strong, you can even purify my killing intent. However, I'm looking for the 9 Yang divine body. Can you tell me where that person is? I can spare your life. You're extremely young, it'll be a pity if you lose your life here. With your talent, you'll definitely be an overlord-like existence in the future." His face was hidden in the darkness and hard to recognize. However, from the ups and downs of his breathing, it was clear that he was holding back his emotions. With his status as a martial emperor, he should have been able to capture a mere martial king easily and interrogate him as he pleased. However, after 2 moves, he couldn't even hurt the other party at all, and he was about to explode from anger. Yunxiao stared at him coldly, feeling extremely depressed in his heart. The 2 moves that he had learned in his life, the Heaven and Earth Seal and the Great Wind and Cloud Palm, had killed many unparalleled overlords and martial sovereigns of the 9 heavens. But now, he couldn't even take 2 moves from a martial emperor. Although he wasn't injured, he was in a sorry state every time, and he had lost his demeanor. Yunxiao said with a sneer, "If you don't act tough, we might be able to be friends." "You're looking for death." Mr. Yu exploded, and his black robe was shattered by the force. It revealed a ferocious face, sharp ears, and an unusually demonic appearance. Furthermore, its arms were grayish-brown in color and had long white fur, making it look like a wild beast. "Demon race Suan and I?" Yunxiao said softly, not too surprised. When the other party said that the day that humans would be trapped in the 5-Cloud Mountain was not far away, he had already guessed it. The difference between the demon clan and the demon beasts was like the difference between humans and apes. Who knew how many years ago, they might have had the same ancestor. Later on, one of them evolved and gained intelligence, becoming a monster race existence. Mr. Yu said calmly, "Since you're so insensible, I can only capture you and interrogate you personally. As a martial king, it's a great honor for you to be able to see my true face." Yunxiao was a little speechless. He asked, "Will you die if you don't show off your superiority? I really don't understand what kind of superiority a demonic beast can have. If it were me, I would be too embarrassed to meet people." "You're looking for death." Mr. Yu was so angry that all his hair stood up. The biggest taboo of the monster race was to be called a monster. It was like how humans were called hairless monkeys. Cross-shaped void slash. He crossed his arms and shot out 2 beams of energy. The energy tore through the air at an extremely fast speed and made an ear-piercing sound. Song of the Green Lotus Sword. A light flashed in Yunxiao's hand, and the purple Shadow Qing Sua's sword appeared in his palm. After holding it, he swept it out, stirring up green lotuses that bloomed in the air one by one. But they were soon destroyed by the slash and came slashing at him. Puzzled, Yunxiao tapped his foot and instantly retreated more than 10 steps, avoiding the 2 slashes. The difference in cultivation between the two was too great. No matter how the other party attacked, he seemed unable to block it and had to avoid it, which made him extremely depressed. Moreover, the other party did not seem to be an ordinary martial royal realm powerhouse. He was definitely not as simple as he looked on the surface. Let's see how many you can dodge. Mr. Yu extended a finger and a white light grew bigger and bigger. He said, "Key, shoot at random." Dozens of attacks were shot out from the white light, filling the entire space. Your sister. Yunxiao cursed as he performed an incantation gesture with one hand. The demonic sky armor materialized and condensed into a huge shadow in front of him, forming a layer of defense. Boom boom boom. The white light constantly penetrated the black demonic chi and hit the body of the armor, causing waves of spirit pressure to spread out like water ripples. Mr. Yu's pupils shrank and he said in shock, "It's a 9th rank armor, and it's made of demonic chi. Who are you?" His eyes revealed a greedy look. If it was an ordinary 9th tier profound armament, it might not even be able to enter his eyes. Hiding behind the armor, Yunxiao snorted coldly and said, "To be able to see this young master's true appearance, you didn't live your life in vain, yet you're still so greedy as to ask for this young master's name." Mr. Yu almost spat out blood. He took out a small green sword, made a few hand seals, and shot it out. He said angrily, "Even if it's a 9th tier profound armament, what's the use of using it with your cultivation?" The small green sword seemed unremarkable, even in the air, it was ordinary, and it struck with the white light. But, Yunxiao's face changed drastically as he said in horror, "You also have a 9th tier profound armament?" A martial emperor using a 9th tier profound armament and a martial king using it were two completely different concepts. The difference was like heaven and earth. The fluctuation of weapon rhythm that flickered on the small green sword made his heart jump with fear. Moreover, the fluctuation of energy on the small sword had completely locked him down, leaving him no way to escape. This time, he didn't dare to be careless. Although a martial emperor couldn't fully exert the power of a 9th tier profound armament, Mr. Yu was obviously not a simple martial artist. From the fluctuations coming from the small sword, he could feel that at least half of its power had been activated by him. Based on this point alone, even if a martial supreme was here, he would not dare to take this sword head-on. Under the pressure of the 9th tier green sword, Yunxiao gave a loud cry, and a ring unfurled from his arm, then suddenly enlarged and rushed out. The heavenly spirit ring emitted beams of yellow light, shaking the void open and creating a void in front of Yunxiao, separating him from the small green sword. Whoosh! Yunxiao was overjoyed to see the small sword pierce through the void. He performed an incantation gesture with both hands, and the heavenly spirit ring shrank back into his wrist, forming a round wrist guard. Mr. Yu watched the green sword disappear into the void without any expression on his face. He snorted and said, "Childish." He changed his hand gesture and said sarcastically, "That taillight sword is my intrinsic profound weapon, and it's linked to my life. Even if it's separated by an endless amount of time and space, it's still under my control." Yunxiao looked at his wrist in horror and felt a huge vibration coming from the heavenly spirit ring, as well as a sorrowful cry. He turned pale with fright and hurriedly undid his spirit ring, sending out a palm strike. Bang! A crisp cracking sound was heard. The 8th tier profound artifact, the heavenly spirit ring, actually exploded in the air, breaking into countless tiny pieces of metal, letting out a sorrowful cry in the air. It was unknown what material it was made of, but it gradually collapsed and finally disappeared in the air. The taillight sword spun in the air and shot at Yunxiao again. This time, Yunxiao's scalp really went numb. Mr. Yu's control of 9th tier mystic artifacts was far beyond his expectations. Although this strike was not as powerful as the martial emperor's punch back in Yanwu, it was not much weaker. He didn't dare to hold back any longer. The divine realm tablet shot out from between his eyebrows and shook toward the small sword. The spiritual energy in his body gushed out crazily, and the great realm divine technique circulated around his body. The two waves of territory power spread out like the laws of the world, pushing away the weapon intent on the taillight sword and suppressing it. What? Mr. Yu's expression changed. The weapon essence and pressure from the opponent's profound level weapon were not any weaker than his taillight sword. What shocked him more was that the taillight sword was being restrained and was rapidly consuming his mind. Every time it was activated, it was 100 times more difficult than before. Ripple Scamper, activate. Mr. Yu's hands kept changing, and a strange spell was cast. A strange power spread out from his fingertips, filling the entire space. The surroundings began to distort greatly, and the space was squeezed toward the Divine Realm tablet, as if it was going to erase the profound level weapon from the space. Spiritual Domain. Yunxiao was taken aback, and his pupils quickly turned blood red in horror. For the first time, Yunxiao felt great pressure. In terms of martial arts, the other party was stronger than him. In the Tao of Wheel, the other party was stronger than him. When it came to the control of a 9th-tier profound armament, the other party was still stronger than him. Since his rebirth, this was the first time that all his domains had been completely suppressed by the other party. Eye Technique Restriction. Yunxiao's eyes burned with a towering fighting spirit. In his previous life, he was known as the #1 in spiritual attacks in the realm of heavenly martial arts. When had he ever allowed anyone to be presumptuous in this field? A raging battle intent shot out from his eyes, and the great expansion divine technique appeared in his sea of consciousness, transforming into soul power without end. The entire world turned blood red at this moment, squeezing towards that distorted space, as if to smash the other party. At this moment, the Divine Realm tablet also shone with a golden light, pushing away the surrounding mental power and continuing to suppress the tail light sword. In fact, even if Yunxiao had not made a move, the Divine Realm tablet had the Earth of Breath, which could stabilize the rivers, mountains, seas, and 9 continents. It was impossible for it to be dragged into the void turbulence by an 8th-tier alchemist with mental power. Are you an alchemist too? Mr. Yu was shocked, but then he said, no wonder you have so many profound level weapons and treasures. Who is your master? In his opinion, Yunxiao's things must have been given to him by his master. Seeing that Yunxiao was ignoring him, Mr. Yu became angry and snorted, since you're not willing to reveal your master's heritage, then I'll just kill you directly. Although your spiritual attack is very sharp, your level is too low. Do you think you can show off your skills in front of an expert? Ripple Rush, break. The surrounding space changed, and Yunxiao's blood-red world rapidly declined, pressing back into his eyes while his mind began to hurt violently. As if it was not enough, 24 moonlit bridges left his body and brightened the underground space as bright as day. Under the pressure of mental energy, a space was forcibly opened. Not only does he have a divine body, but he has also cultivated a body-refining technique. Mr. Yu's pupils contracted, and he said in surprise, in addition to your cultivation in martial arts and sorcery, you're still young. My God, how can you have such monstrous talent? His eyes were filled with killing intent as he said coldly, it's a good thing I met you today. Otherwise, you'd be a great threat to my monster race in the future. Today, you shall die here and become the first withered bone in the revival of our demon race. His figure flickered as he rushed down, raised his fist, and punched at Yunxiao. In addition to the surging demonic qi, the powerful pressure on the wind of the fist penetrated through the bone marrow, giving rise to an irresistible force. Within the same rank, it was almost impossible for humans to match demonic beasts. It was because of their powerful physical strength, which was dozens of times stronger than other martial artists of the same level. The monsters also inherited such strong physical strength. Mr. Yu's punch was so powerful that it almost shattered the space. Phew. Vajra Fist. Yunxiao roared and threw out a punch without any fancy moves. In this kind of confrontation, any martial technique was insignificant. In addition to absolute strength, it was also a competition of the various trump cards and the understanding of martial arts and techniques. Even the Vajra punch contained supreme martial intent Dao fruits when he used it. Boom. The two fists collided fiercely. Although they didn't come into contact, a black crack appeared between the fist wind and gradually spread out. The terrifying power that was emitted from it seemed to want to devour everything. The force of the collision of the two fists actually opened a spatial crack. Boom, boom, boom. The space around him was almost swallowed up by the crack, and Yunxiao felt like his body was about to explode. The mighty body he was so proud of had been pushed to its limit by the punch, and it was about to collapse at any time. Mr. Yu's heart was filled with fear. He knew very well in his heart how powerful his punch was. Over the years, he had carried out all kinds of experiments, refined countless demonic beast bloodlines, and carried out continuous fusion and experiments. In the end, he performed some safe secret techniques on himself. His blood even had a power that was not inferior to the bloodline of a true dragon. With the strength of such a physical body, if the other party had the same cultivation base, he would definitely be smashed into pieces with a single punch. He would completely collapse in space, and it would be difficult to even retain his flesh. Such a powerful punch was actually received by the other party, and it was also received by relying on the physical body. How could he not be shocked? He broke out in a cold sweat. Finally, Yunxiao could not hold on any longer. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood and was thrown far away like a kite with a broken string. The Divine Realm tablet that was suppressing the tail-light sword was also affected. It turned into a stream of light and chased after him, flying back to the space between his eyebrows. Mr. Yu waved his hand, and the tail-light sword flew into his palm. It instantly grew 30 times larger and turned into a 3-foot-long blade. Holding it in his hand, he walked step by step in the direction where Yunxiao had fallen. His killing intent was extremely strong. The shock Yunxiao had brought him was too strong. If he did not kill this man, he would not be able to sleep at night. He walked over with a few steps, but was stunned when he found that Yunxiao was completely gone in the limited space. Only the Divine Realm tablet was left standing on the earth like a tombstone, with light flowing on it. Since his rebirth, he had escaped into the Divine Realm tablet during the first battle. At the moment, Yunxiao was lying on Mount Inch, covered in blood and vomiting blood. Under the last punch, his overlord body almost collapsed, and his internal organs, limbs, and meridians were completely destroyed. If they didn't escape into the Divine Realm tablet, they would be completely dead. Fortunately, the nature-defying characteristics of the tyrant body allowed him to absorb a lot of the power from the other party's punch while he was being destroyed. He began to repair his body continuously. Suddenly, Evil Dragon's loud laughter could be heard. He seemed to be laughing very happily, and he felt like he was about to cry. His cultivation base, soul power, profound level weapons, and physical body were all suppressed by the other party. As a peerless martial sovereign, you've never had such an experience, have you? The demonic dragon seemed to be very excited and kept laughing. Yunxiao smiled wryly. If not for the Divine Realm tablet, which was a place to escape, he would have really died this time. With a thought, a trace of divine sense spread in the Divine Realm tablet. Duan Yu, who had no idea where he was, opened his eyes slightly and said in surprise, "It's that powerful? All right, I'll meet this person." He stood up and waved his hand. An earth-shaking roar came over, and the sky flashed with the crackling sound of thunder. The dark thunder landed on the clouds and snuggled up next to him. His aura had obviously changed from before, and he was now on par with Duan Yu.